Hi, I'm Jeannie, and welcome to Craft Genie. We're going to be making this market bag today. This is a bag made out of cotton fabric so that you can wash it and reuse it. It is about 17 inches wide finished, about 14 inches, and the nice thing with this bag is it's deep. If you look at the sides, it's about 6 inches deep. I've got the reinforced sides, there's extra fabric at the bottom, so it's a nice strong bag. And I'm actually making them in Christmas prints because I think it's going to be a fun way to wrap up my Christmas gifts in this bag, and then of course the gift inside. So let's go ahead and get started. And move this one aside. Okay, your main fabric, you will have two pieces that are 18 by 18 square. Now mine has a pattern, so I have to have it specifically in one direction, but you can make one long piece 18 inches wide by 36 inches if you don't have a pattern on it. This one does. Now your base piece is going to be 18 inches by 12 inches. This is the piece that is going to go down here to reinforce the bottom. And then for your straps, you need to cut your pieces 3.5 inches wide. And this is the full width of the fabric. In this case it was 45 inches wide. And you're going to want two of these. So we're going to prep it by actually ironing these pieces first. I know some people don't like to iron their pieces before they sew, but in this case it's going to make the whole process a lot easier. I've got some shortcuts that we can do to make it sew quicker, but if you didn't iron them ahead of time, the shortcuts aren't going to work. So let me get over to the ironing board and let's continue. Okay, we're going to start with the body of the bag. Find the top edge of it, and I want you to turn it 1/4 inch and then 1/4 inch and press it. Just go all the way across. Your second piece, do the same thing, 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. Let me move this one. So the top of both sides of this piece, or both sides of your bag. Okay, set those two aside. Next we're going to take this piece that was 12 inches by 18 inches. Straighten it out a little bit. On these I want to have you turn just about a little less than 1/2 inch. Don't double fold it, just turn it over once and iron it all the way across. Do the same on the other side. And I just want to be sure that they're even, so fold them over. And right now I'm going to put a little tiny crease on this corner. This is actually going to be a mark we're going to use later on to center up this piece. A little tiny shortcut we're going to do. Okay, and onto the straps. Okay, for the straps, originally what I was doing was I was folding over about 3/4 of an inch to each side, and then flipping the whole thing in half and pressing it. And that takes a little bit of time to do. And then I found this really cool tool. It's a bias tape maker. They come in all kinds of different sizes. This one is the 2-inch bias tape maker, and it makes the process so okay, you're going to feed your fabric through here. I usually start it off by folding the ends. I'm going to straighten that out when it comes to the other side and pushing it through. If the fabric is thick enough, it'll go all the way through. This fabric, I need to give it a little boost. There we go. And as you pull back, it folds those ends already for you. Go ahead. Oops. There are times it gets a little bit out of shape. You might have to bring it back and forth a little bit if your fabric is thicker too. But it actually is a nice tool, quickly folds your bias, and actually saves you quite a bit of time. So let me go ahead and make these 2 straps. And we'll come back, just fold this straight in half, and press it. Makes a nice, quick, sturdy strap, 4 layers thick by the time you're done with it. Perfect for a bag, especially if you're using it for something heavy like groceries or books. There you go. The strap is ironed and ready to start sewing. Okay, I'm going to start out by sewing the bottom of these 2 pieces to connect them together. Line them up, take them to the sewing machine. And this one I'm doing a 5/8 inch seam on the bottom. And because we want this bag to be sturdy, I'm going to go back and I'm going to push the seam off to one side and stitch it across the top. We're going to give it a little extra strength down here. Make sure as you're sewing that the seam stays off to the correct side. Okay, so we have our front piece. I'm going to fold it right down the middle. And first thing we're going to do is pin the straps in place and sew those down. Now the strap, as you recall, is open still in the middle. We're not going to stitch it right now. We'll stitch it down when we build the whole bag. It's going to be about 4.5 inches from the bottom, and then it's going to be 5 inches from each side. Here's my 4.5 inches. There's my 5 inches. Again, the opening is toward the center part of the bag. Make sure when you bring it around that you keep the handle straight. You don't want it twisted or you're going to have a mess on your hands when you're done. There's 4.5 inches. 5 and 5. And you want to flip it over and put the handle on the other side. Again, make sure it's even. And then one little shortcut I do right here, I can remeasure it all, but I can actually feel the handle through here, so I can see exactly where it started, right here. I can see at the top where the handle goes. Make sure that it's straight. Very important to make sure that it's straight. And when it comes back down, here's the bottom of the second handle. There we go. Let me pin that in place. And we'll take it back to the sewing machine. Okay, let's go ahead and sew. I always start with the inside seam so we can get this closed. And I'm sewing very close to the edge of the strap. Now, as you get near the top of the bag, you want to make sure that that double fold that we did stays folded. You're going to sew right over the top of that fold, but make sure that your fold is in place. There we go, and then continue around the strap. As we come back to the body of the bag, again, make sure that this is folded in place. There we go. Now see how much easier it is because we ironed both of these pieces ahead of time. We're not having to try to fold and pin and pin. Everything pretty much stays in place. As you get to the bottom of this strap, turn, and we're going up the other side. Now this side is folded. We don't have to sew it closed, but we're stitching it down, double stitching it to the bag. Same thing as you get to the top, make sure that this is folded over in place. Continue along the strap. Okay, we have our handles sewn. And as you can see, these, remember, they're on the outside of the bag, not on the inside of the bag. We've sewn the handles in place. Now we're going to take our bottom piece and we want to center it up over the bag. Now remember the little fold I had you put in the top piece? We're going to line it up with the center of this, and that's going to be pretty close to being centered. We'll check that in a moment. Okay, and again, line up the crease to the center of your bag. And let's go ahead and pin it in place. We'll check it before we sew it down, but let's get it pinned in place. Take the center and let's fold it up and see. Line it up square. Now these two pieces should be at the same level. Do you see that? That's how I know I've got them lined up well. These pieces, again, top and bottom, they're at the same, can you see that? Same level, so we know that they're lined up right. So let me go ahead and stitch these down, and we'll move on with the next part of the bag. And again, I'm stitching it really close to the edge of the piece of fabric. Okay, so we've got the strap sewn on, we've got the base sewn on. Now what we're going to do is turn it inside out and lay it down. So we've got pretty side to the inside. Line it up, make sure everything is straight. Make sure that these pieces are matched up. You can see that they are. This side, they are matched up. Okay. Now I want you to grab this piece about halfway down. We're going to pull it forward and flip it back on itself. What we're doing is we're making that little gusset at the bottom that's going to make your bag wide. Now I want the center piece to be about 3 inches. It's not quite 3. There we go, it's about 3 inches. But then I need to make sure that this base matches up with this side. These don't. So I need to adjust it until they match. It's going to be a mess if you don't. It'll sew up, it just won't look good. So our center piece is 3 inches, and if you look at the two, move that out of the way, two bottom pieces, they line up right there. Okay? So I'm going to put a pin in that side to hold that one in place. It pretty much folds itself over, but we'll do the same thing on this side. I've got 3 inches on the centerpiece, and the 2 bottom pieces line up. So we'll take it back over to the sewing machine and stitch the sides. We're pretty close to being done now. I want to do about a 5/8 inch seam here as well. We want a little bit wider seam on the sides. Now when you come to the top, I want you to unfold. Remember where we folded it and ironed it? I want you to unfold that all the way and sew all the way to the top. We do the other side the same way. Again, when you get to the top, unfold the entire part that you folded. Now, at this point, I would have you trim away the excess and then zigzag pretty close to the outside edge. Or if you have a serger, you can finish it off on the serger. I'm going to go ahead and take this to my serger and serge that off, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, we've done our seams, and you've either done your zigzag or serged edge. So, like I did here, turn your bag inside out, or right side out. And here's our bottom corner. We're going to actually stitch this down, so I want you to square it up. It's not going to necessarily be square. If your center seam is right down the center, then you'll get a nice square base. Let's get a pin on each side. Let's flip it over and do the same on the other side. I like adding this stitch because it makes the bag a little bit more structured, and when you wash the bag and it comes out, it'll come out right into the right shape. If you don't do this stitch, it's going to come out all funny. Okay, so let's go back to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch this down. Okay, I'm going to slide this under the machine and we're going to start our stitching back here. I'm explaining it to you because it might be a little bit tough to see on the machine. Now, a couple of warnings of caution here. You have a lot of material, you've got a lot of moving parts, there are straps and things. Make sure that everything is out of the way from underneath before you start stitching. I was showing someone the other day how to do this. We sat here together at my sewing machine and I told her, move everything out of the way. And I sewed it. When I was done, there was a strap caught in the sewing. You probably can't go all the way back to the corner. Don't worry about that. Just drop the needle. There we go. When you get to the point, turn it. We're going to go down the other side. And again, you're not going to get all the way to the corner. Don't worry about not getting all the way to the corner. Feel something under there. Let's get as close as you can get. Back stitch a few steps. And then before you take it out, I want you to find that center seam, and you're going to feel the seam. It's either fallen to the right or to the left. In my case, it fell over to the right, and we're going to stitch that down. This is going to give it just a little extra strength. And it's really about 1/8 of an inch from the seams where I'm sewing. Make Make sure that the seam stays fallen on the right side, or on the correct side. Okay, this one is sewn down. I'll get rid of the extra strings. And we'll flip it over and do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, there we go, and we are just about finished. Last thing we have to do, if you recall, we have this part that we turned over, and we haven't sewn it down yet, so we're going to do that. Now the corners, we unfolded them when we sewed it. We're just going to flip them over. You don't have to re-iron it at this point, and sew it all the way around. Just go right over the straps. Again, when you come to the corner that you unfolded, just tuck it back in and keep sewing. And there you go. There's your market bag, ready for your shopping or gift-giving pleasure. So go ahead and give it a try. It's a quick, easy bag, and have fun with this.